Have you ever wondered why, at the very moment you expected clarity, passion, and purpose to flood your soul after a spiritual awakening, all motivation seemed to vanish instead? Why is it that the unveiling of truth often leaves us not in celebration, but in stillness? We're taught that awakening is a beginning, that once we pierce the veil, we emerge radiant, driven, and ready to live with higher purpose. But what if the awakening first dissolves everything you once were, including the very fire that kept you moving? What if the blaze you waited for arrives not in flames, but in a sacred silence, so vast, so still, it startles you? Carl Jung saw this long before the spiritual hashtags and guided meditations. He saw that this silent phase, the hollowing, is not failure, not apathy, but a rite of passage into the self. And if this message stirs something you've always felt but never had words for, I invite you to subscribe to Deep Psyche, where we explore the hidden layers of mind, emotion, and soul. Now let's begin. Somewhere, along your path, perhaps after a profound insight or the slow crumbling of an identity you once clung to, the world shifted. The ambitions that once guided you, achievement, validation, becoming more, lost their color, not with a crash, but with a whisper. At first it felt like liberation. The noise faded, the air felt cleaner. But slowly, the silence grew. It didn't fill itself with purpose. It expanded, it hollowed, and in that hollow, striving stopped. Not because you gave, but because something ancient in you no longer saw the point of performing. You weren't broken, you were emptied. And that emptiness, and though peaceful, felt eerie. In that stillness a question arose, quiet but aching. Why do I feel so hollow now that I finally see clearly? This is where the paradox begins. We believe awakening is ignition. That clarity leads to fire. That truth unleashes purpose. But for many, especially those who live deeply, awakening does the opposite. It strips. It undresses. It doesn't crown you. It disrobes you. The fire you expected is replaced with a quiet so wide it disorients. Carl Jung understood this. He didn't call it regression. He called it individuation, the sacred becoming of the true self. But right after awakening, it doesn't feel like becoming. It feels like pausing, like standing inside a life that no longer fits, with no script for what comes next. You're not climbing, you're dissolving. And because we confuse movement with meaning, we think something is wrong. But this pause isn't laziness. It is the soul recalibrating. You are no longer driven by applause or fear, but you haven't yet learned to follow the quiet pull of truth. You are in between, not asleep, not yet awake to what's next. In Jung's language, this is the Negredo, the blackening, the first stage of alchemy, the collapse of the false self, the death of ego's scaffolding. The goals you once clung to dissolve into background noise. The stage collapses. The script vanishes, but the new story hasn't begun. To the world it looks like loss of motivation, but to the soul it's sacred disorientation. Your ego isn't gone, it's stunned. It doesn't know how to function without its roles. It's all. Can't find meaning in old patterns that were never truly yours. You're still, not from despair, but because movement without meaning feels impossible now. You feel like an actor who stepped off stage and forgot their lines, not from confusion, but from clarity, because the lines were never yours. This hollowing is not the end, it's preparation. And in this haunting pause, something begins to stir, not loudly, but as a hum, a vibration, a presence. This hum is the self, not the ego, not the role you played, but the self Jung spoke of, the totality of who you are when nothing is performed, when nothing is seeking approval. It doesn't shout. It resonates. It doesn't urge. It invites. It draws you not toward status, but toward alignment. Not toward applause, but toward expression. This is the soul's motivation. It doesn't burn like ego. It glows. You begin creating, even if no one watches. You say no, even when yes is expected. You follow wonder instead of obligation. Jung called this living symbolically. It means living in dialogue with meaning itself, following the whispers, the dreams, the synchronicities. The ego needed answers. The self thrives in presence, and so a new direction emerges. You no longer ask, "What should I do?" but "What is life asking of me now?" And slowly, energy returns, but it's not the anxious, grasping kind. It's a soul-powered impulse, a quiet yes that moves from truth. And that kind of fire doesn't flicker. It endures. So if you find yourself in this strange and silent space where the old drive has vanished and the new has not yet arrived, remember this. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are being restructured. The fire you once moved with was never meant to last. It burned away the false, so the real could rise. This is not the end of your path. It's the beginning of your becoming. Not the becoming of ego, but of essence. If something in these words echoed something in you, I invite you to leave a comment below. Your voice, your story, may be the reflection someone else is waiting for. And if you'd like to walk this path with others who see beyond the surface, subscribe to Deep Psyche and become part of a space where we explore the unseen layers of self, shadow, and soul. Thank you for arriving here, not just to this video, but to your inner truth. Until next time, stay with the silence. Let it shape you. And trust, something real is being born.